So what is the path out of climate madness? Well, I think this conference continues to be a great vehicle to get attention from the press and reinforce the views of the skeptical scientific community. So kudos to the Heartland for putting it on again. I submit to you there are two paths. One is to continue to drive climate science. The second is to educate the common citizen. Since this is a scientific panel, I'll do a little climate science. In my mind, there are four false scientific conclusions that climatism has come to and made into dogmas. The first is that the modern warming of the late 20th century is abnormal. But anyone who studies history, the Holocene climate optimum, the medieval warm period, knows that this is not the case. Second, that carbon dioxide, a trace gas in our atmosphere, drives Earth's climate. If anyone has read James Hansen's recent book, Storms of My Grandchildren, you'll find that Dr. Hansen thinks that everything is caused by carbon dioxide. The ice ages, the rise and fall of the oceans, even the extinction of animals throughout human history. Really a remarkable conclusion, seen through, as I put it, carbon-tinted glasses. Third, that positive feedback of water vapor boosts Earth's temperature, but thanks to new research by Dick Lindzen and Roy Spencer and others, it appears that these feedbacks are actually negative and that climate sensitivity is low. And finally, the one I want to spend a little time on, the recent rise in atmospheric carbon dioxide is due to man. Many skeptical scientists have accepted this conclusion. I do not agree. The IPCC says that the atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide in 2005 exceeds by far the natural range over the last 650,000 years as determined from ice cores. And they show this graph, a hockey stick graph, by the way, showing the recent rise in carbon dioxide and then thousands of years of unchanging carbon dioxide. The problem with this graph is not the recent spike, it's the ice core data and the assumption that we've had thousands of years of unchanging CO2. By the way, everyone here should understand that the hockey stick is the recipe for climatism. We've had the discredited Michael Mann hockey stick, which showed 20th century temperature rise and thousands of years of flat temperature. We have this carbon dioxide hockey stick, and I understand we now have a new hockey stick out on sea level rise. Michael Mann's a co-author of that, and that basically says, well, we had very little change in sea level rise for thousands of years, and now we've had an acceleration. It turns out that another way to measure atmospheric carbon dioxide is with leaf stomata. Leaf stomata are holes on the underside of plants or in pine needles that allow carbon dioxide to enter the plant and take part in photosynthesis. It turns out that the amount of atmospheric CO2 affects how many leaf stomata that grow on the plant. When atmospheric carbon dioxide levels are low, plants grow with a low density, with a high density of stomata, providing more holes, allowing more carbon dioxide to get into the plant. And then when atmospheric carbon dioxide levels are high, leaves grow with a lower stomata density. The plant still gets the carbon dioxide it needs, but it cuts down on the amount of water vapor that escapes from the plant or the leaf. So by correlating modern carbon dioxide levels with leaf stomata levels, scientists can then go back into past history, uncover leaves that were buried in the past, and get an estimate of past carbon dioxide levels. And the leaf stomata proxy contradicts the ice core data. I call your attention to a master's thesis done by Loie Koenberg of the University of Utrecht in 2005, where she plotted atmospheric carbon dioxide for the last couple thousand years, and she found levels of 350 and 400 parts per million 1,500 years ago. She also found a rate of change of carbon dioxide of 50 to 100 parts per million per year. Both of these, by the way, there are other studies that find similar things. Both of these conclusions conflict with the ice core data that the IPCC has relied on. In addition, the IPCC's carbon model says that these rate of changes cannot occur without man-made emissions. Dr. Cohenberg attributed this to outgassing from the oceans, and the significance of this, of course, is apparent. The IPCC's idea that man-made emissions of carbon dioxide are the cause of climate disruption and the recent warming is not really correct. So I urge all the scientists here to take a look at this hockey stick. To get back to our path out of the madness, one is drive the climate science. Second is to educate the common citizen. And a recent by the way, common citizens seem to have more common sense than our intellectual elites and our political leaders about the climate. A Gallup survey done in 2007 and then in 2010, asking the question, how serious of a threat is global warming to you and your family, shows a marked decrease in people's concern in Europe and in the United States. So we're making good progress. By educating the common citizen, we can win the battle for realistic climate science, and eventually the intellectual elites will have to listen. And by the way, I asked everyone here to use terms that the public can understand. One of those is climatism, the belief that man-made greenhouse gases are destroying Earth's climate. It's important that people know that this is an ideology. This is more than just a question of science. It's an effort to change societies all across the globe. And the second one I like comes from Leighton Stewart. CO2 is green. We all ought to be using that also. That's a slap in the face of the green movement, a slap in the face of climatism, and it points out that carbon dioxide is great for the biosphere, as many have said already at this conference. So in summary, Climategate might have been the end of the beginning, but we have a long, long way to go to win this battle, and we need to continue to drive the science. I urge everyone here to take a look with a critical eye at that carbon dioxide hockey stick. And third, let's go out and reach the common man. I'd be super happy if everybody here left and used that term climatism. Let's put a label on this climate madness.